Doug Ford glad-handing at a mining conference in Toronto. A friendly crowd eager for Ontario's premier to deliver on his promises to develop a major critical mineral project in the north.
Nothing's more promising than the Ring of Fire, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to create more than 70,000 jobs, make Ontario a critical mineral superpower.
Ford saying today he's reached agreements with a pair of First Nations near the mineral deposit. The province will provide $2.5 million in support for economic activities in both communities, and they will lead the construction of the access road that could one day lead to the development of the Ring of Fire.
It's why today our government is releasing an accelerated schedule to finish construction and start opening the roads to the Ring of Fire in 2030, 5 full years ahead of schedule.
Canada may have found something that could change everything. One massive, deep underground project filled with valuable minerals the world needs. This discovery could create jobs, grow the economy, and help power the future. And Canada may be holding one of the biggest advantages of all. More than 500 kilometers northeast of Thunder Bay, in one of the most remote stretches of Northern Ontario's boreal forest, sits a deposit of critical minerals that governments and mining companies describe as one of the most promising mineral development opportunities in the world. The region is called the Ring of Fire. It is located more than 500 kilometers northeast of Thunder Bay and currently has an active claim area about 8,000 square kilometers in size. Its vast supply of critical minerals includes chromite, copper, nickel, platinum, and titanium. Those 5 minerals are not abstract commodities. They are the material inputs of the modern industrial economy, embedded in cell phones, computers, medical devices, electric vehicle batteries, renewable energy infrastructure, advanced electronics, and military equipment. Ontario's critical minerals could create more than 70,000 jobs in industries across Ontario and generate over $22 billion for Ontario's economy, over 30 years to help fund schools, hospitals, and public services. The Ring of Fire's significance in the current geopolitical moment is not incidental. Western governments have spent the past 3 years attempting to build critical mineral supply chains that do not depend on China, which currently controls dominant shares of global mining, processing, and refining capacity for the materials that batteries and clean energy technology require. The EU's Critical Raw Materials Act of 2024, the US Inflation Reduction Act's domestic content requirements, and Canada's own critical minerals strategy are all instruments of the same policy imperative: secure supply from allied, politically stable sources before strategic dependencies in Chinese-controlled supply chains create economic and security vulnerabilities that cannot be easily reversed. Ontario's Ring of Fire sits in one of the most politically stable mining jurisdictions on Earth. The minerals it contains are exactly the minerals that every clean energy transition scenario requires in growing quantities. The region is remote, but it is Canadian territory with functioning legal frameworks, Indigenous partnership requirements, and an established regulatory process. That combination is what makes the Ring of Fire strategically significant beyond its raw mineral content. The regulatory barrier that has historically prevented Ring of Fire development from proceeding is the permitting timeline. Right now, the permitting and authorization processes for mining projects is a maze of overlapping approvals from multiple ministries and levels of government. This means it can take up to 15 years to open a mine in Ontario. The Ontario government has introduced legislation to address this, directly designating regions with multiple critical mineral deposits as regions of strategic importance, and implementing a one project, one process approval model that consolidates all government approvals into a single coordinated process. The new model is designed to reduce government review times by at least 50% while maintaining environmental standards and the Crown's duty to consult with Indigenous communities. The Ring of Fire is designated under this framework. The infrastructure gap is the physical barrier that the permitting reform cannot address on its own. The Ring of Fire sits in roadless terrain, boreal forest, peatlands, and wetlands, with no all-season road connections to the provincial highway network. Every person, every piece of equipment, and every supply that currently reaches the region does so by winter road, which is operational for only a limited period each year when ground conditions are frozen sufficiently to support heavy loads or by air. Building mines requires moving massive amounts of equipment, materials, and personnel in both directions continuously. That is not possible without permanent road infrastructure. Ontario is advancing all-season road projects in partnership with Indigenous communities, including the Webequie Supply Road Project, the Martin Falls Community Access Road Project, and the Northern Road Link Project. Upgrades to highways 584/643 at the gateway to the Ring of Fire region were completed in November 2024. Those highway upgrades represent the first completed infrastructure improvement in the gateway corridor to the Ring of Fire, a tangible step in a multi-stage road development program that must ultimately connect the mineral deposits to the provincial highway network before large-scale extraction can proceed. The Indigenous dimension of Ring of Fire development is the most complex and most consequential element of the entire project. The Ring of Fire sits within the traditional territories of Naimatawa First Nations communities, including Webequie First Nation, Martin Falls First Nation, Neskantaga First Nation, and others. These communities have been advocating for a meaningful role in decision-making about development that would directly affect their territories, water systems, and ways of life for generations. Some communities have supported road development and have actively participated in environmental assessment processes for the access roads bearing their names. Others have raised concerns about the pace of development, the adequacy of consultation, and the protection of their treaty rights and environmental interests. The environmental sensitivity of the Ring of Fire landscape is documented and specific. The Hudson Bay lowlands, the peatland ecosystem that underlies much of the Ring of Fire region, is one of the largest intact peatland systems in the world. It stores enormous quantities of carbon accumulated over thousands of years of organic material accumulation under cold, waterlogged conditions. The Wildlife Conservation Society Canada has documented the region's ecological significance as habitat for woodland caribou, wolverines, migratory birds, and freshwater fish species. The specific concern that environmental researchers have raised about large-scale road and mining development in the Hudson Bay lowlands is the potential for permafrost degradation, drainage pattern alteration, and carbon release from disturbed peat. These are not hypothetical impacts. They are documented consequences of industrial development in comparable peatland systems in other regions, and they are the basis for the environmental assessments the Ontario government has committed to completing before finalizing road routes. The chromite deposits in the Ring of Fire are particularly significant within the global mineral supply picture. Ontario's Ring of Fire contains what Ontario's government describes as one of the world's largest chromite deposits outside South Africa and Kazakhstan. Chromite is the primary ore from which ferrochrome is produced, which in turn is the essential ingredient in stainless steel. The Ring of Fire's chromite reserves would give Canada and its allies a North American supply of a material currently sourced predominantly from Southern Africa and Central Asia.